Forget everything you know about trucks. We are not talking about your grandfather's pickup. We are talking about mechanical freaks of nature. Have you ever seen a truck that walks over rocks like a spider? Or a van with a two-stroke engine that smokes like a chimney? From Cold War secrets to three-wheeled oddities, these are the 10 most bizarre classic trucks that history tried to forget. These machines defy logic, physics, and sanity. You need to stay until the very last second because the engineering gets crazier with every entry. If you love discovering the weirdest machines on Earth, smash that subscribe button right now. Let's dive into the madness. We are kicking off this list with an American oddity from the late 1950s that looks like it is wearing a pair of extra glasses. Meet the International Harvester Sightliner. At first glance, you might think the designers made a terrible mistake. Why are there two extra windows cut into the bodywork right below the windshield? This wasn't a design flaw, it was a radical attempt to solve a major safety problem. In the tight city streets of the 1950s, drivers in high-cab over trucks could not see pedestrians or small cars directly in front of their massive steel bumpers. Mechanically, the Sightliner was an absolute beast tailored for the U.S. highway system. It was typically powered by the massive V401 or V549 gasoline V8 engines, churning out serious horsepower for its time. Officially known as the ACO series, its distinct compact design was a direct response to strict length regulations. The Sightliner measured only 48 inches from the bumper to the back of the cab. This ultra-short length allowed trucking companies to haul longer trailers while staying legally within the overall length limits of various states. It was a brilliant, albeit strange, example of government regulations dictating automotive design. However, the Sightliner did not stick around forever, and there were reasons for its disappearance. Drivers often complained about the excessive heat in the cabin because they were sitting directly on top of a roaring V8 engine with lots of glass letting in the sun. As length regulations relaxed and cab designs improved, the need for those lower sight windows vanished. Today, seeing a Sightliner at a classic truck show is an incredibly rare treat. It stands as a testament to a time when American engineers were not afraid to cut holes in a truck just to see if it worked. Crossing the Atlantic Ocean and the Iron Curtain, we find the Barkas B1000. While the Volkswagen bus was becoming a symbol of freedom and surfing in the West, the Barkas was the undisputed workhorse of East Germany. Produced from 1961 all the way until 1991, this van platform did absolutely everything behind the Berlin Wall. It served as an ambulance, a police van, a flatbed truck, and a delivery vehicle. Unlike the rear-engine VW, the Barkas utilized a front-wheel drive layout. This was actually revolutionary for a commercial van, allowing for a remarkably low and flat loading floor for easy cargo access. The engine of the Barkas is where things get truly bizarre by modern American standards. It was powered by a tiny two-stroke three-cylinder engine derived from the Wartburg car. Yes, a smoky two-stroke engine in a one-ton truck. This meant you had to mix oil with the gas, and it produced that signature ring-ding sound and a cloud of blue smoke. With only about 45 horsepower on tap, it was not going anywhere fast, but it was surprisingly torque-heavy. If the engine failed, the design was so simple that two people could literally lift the engine out of the chassis by hand. Despite its underpowered nature, the Barkas B1000 is a cult icon today, representing the ingenuity of engineers working with limited resources. It survived for decades with almost no significant changes, serving as a time capsule of communist engineering. While it lacked the comfort of American vans, it was incredibly durable and easy to fix on the side of the road. Today, collectors import them to the US as unique show cars. Driving one requires patience and a tolerance for noise, but it guarantees you will be the only one at the car meet with a two-stroke van. When the Swedish military needs a truck, they do not mess around with weak designs. Enter the Volvo Laplander series, specifically the C303 model. At first glance, it looks like a brick on wheels. It is arguably one of the boxiest vehicles ever designed. Often nicknamed the Valp or Puppy in its earlier versions, this machine is an absolute monster off-road. It was explicitly designed to transport troops and equipment through the deep snow, frozen lakes, and dense forests of Scandinavia. It is high, narrow, and looks like it might tip over, but its stability is engineering magic. The secret weapon of the Laplander is its portal axles. In a normal American pickup truck, the axle creates a low point in the center of the vehicle that can easily get stuck on rocks or stumps. On the Laplander, the axle tube sits nearly 15 inches above the ground, and a set of gears in the wheel hub transfers the power down to the tire. This gives the truck massive ground clearance without needing monster truck tires. Combined with vacuum-operated differential lockers that can be engaged on the fly, the Laplander can crawl over rocks that would swallow a Jeep Wrangler whole. The driving position is also unique and terrifying. You sit forward of the front axle, meaning you are essentially the bumper. When descending a steep hill, you feel like you are diving face first into the ground. The Volvo Laplander has gained a legendary status among off-road enthusiasts worldwide for its durability and capability. While they are rare in the United States, they are highly sought after by extreme off-roaders who want a vehicle that is practically unstoppable right out of the factory. It proves that a box on wheels can be the ultimate adventure machine. During World War II, the British Army desperately needed a new general service truck, and Bedford answered the call with the QL. Known affectionately to soldiers as Queen Lizzy, this was Bedford's first ever commercial vehicle designed with four-wheel drive. Over 52,000 were built between 1941 and 1945 to support the Allied war effort. The most striking feature of the QL is its height. The cab sits incredibly high up, perched directly on top of the engine. Climbing into the driver's seat is more like ascending a ladder into a treehouse than getting into a standard military truck. This forward control design maximized cargo space on a relatively short wheelbase, allowing it to carry a 3-ton payload, but it made for a unique driving experience. Because you sat so high and the truck was relatively narrow, the sensation of body roll in corners was absolutely terrifying. Drivers reported that it felt like the truck was going to tip over at any moment, although it rarely did thanks to a heavy chassis. The gearbox was also notorious. Shifting gears required a specific rhythm and a lot of muscle, earning the respect and frustration of thousands of Allied soldiers. Despite its quirky ergonomics, the Bedford QL was incredibly robust and versatile. It carried troops, acted as a fuel tanker, served as a mobile office, and even towed anti-tank guns across North Africa and Europe. It represents the stiff upper lip of British wartime engineering, maybe not comfortable, maybe a bit odd-looking, but it absolutely got the job done when it mattered most. Many survived the war and were converted for civilian use, serving on farms for decades. It is a tall, awkward, but heroic piece of history. If the Bedford QL is a soldier, the Scammell Explorer is a tank in disguise. Built in the 1950s for the British Army, this 6x6 recovery vehicle is a mechanical masterpiece of brute force. It was designed to rescue other tanks and heavy trucks that had gotten stuck or broken down in the field. Visually, it is intimidating, with a massive protruding radiator grille and a purposeful, heavy-set stance. It weighs over 20 tons fully loaded and looks like it could smash through a brick wall without even scratching the paint. The real magic of the Explorer lies underneath the chassis, specifically in the rear suspension. It uses a walking beam system instead of standard springs. The rear wheels are attached to a massive beam that pivots in the center, allowing for insane articulation. One rear wheel can be 2 feet up in the air while the other is buried in a ditch, and both will still have traction. Powering this beast was the legendary Gardner 6LW diesel engine. It wasn't fast. Top speed was maybe 25 miles per hour downhill, but the torque was earth-shattering, allowing it to tow over 100 tons using low gears. Watching a Scammell Explorer move off-road is hypnotic. The rear wheels articulate and crawl over obstacles like a giant mechanical insect. It is a reminder of a time when trucks were over-engineered to last forever rather than designed for comfort or speed. The transmission gate was also gated, requiring skill to navigate, and the steering was unassisted, demanding serious arm strength from the driver. Today, these giants are kept alive by dedicated enthusiasts who appreciate the raw, unfiltered mechanical connection between man and machine. Is it a truck? Is it a go-kart? Is it a table with wheels? It is the M274 truck platform utility, better known to U.S. servicemen as the mechanical Mule. Introduced in the late 1950s and used extensively during the Vietnam War, this is the definition of minimalism. The U.S. military wanted a vehicle that could carry heavy loads over rough terrain but was light enough to be dropped by parachute or carried underneath a helicopter. The result was literally a magnesium platform with 4 wheels and an engine underneath, weighing only about 900 pounds. There is no cab, there are no doors, there is not even a real seat, just a flimsy wire basket for the driver. But the engineering is brilliant. The Mule features 4-wheel drive and amazingly 4-wheel steering. This allowed it to crab walk diagonally and make unbelievably tight turns in the jungle. Even stranger, the steering column could be unlatched and tilted forward to extend the wheelbase virtually. This allowed the driver to walk or crawl in front of the moving vehicle while controlling it, perfect for when you needed to use the Mule as a shield in combat. Despite looking like a toy, the Mule could carry more than its own weight in cargo, often hauling up to 1,000 pounds of ammo across terrain that would stop a Jeep. It carried supplies, mounted recoilless rifles for fire support, and evacuated the wounded. It was eventually phased out in the 1980s for the Humvee, but nothing since has matched its sheer utility-to-weight ratio. It proves that you do not need complex computers or armor plating to be an effective military vehicle. Sometimes you just need a flat surface and 4 moving wheels. The Dutch are famous for their endless battle against water, but with the DAF YA-126 they decided to fight the terrain itself. Built in the 1950s as a weapons carrier for the Royal Netherlands Army, this truck looks fairly normal from the top down. However, underneath the chassis, it is an engineering freak of nature. Most 404 trucks use a drive shaft down the middle connected to axles at the front and back. The engineers at DAF said no to that conventional wisdom. Instead, they utilized a unique H-drive system derived from armored car technology. In the H-drive layout, there is no differential in the middle of the axle that could get snagged on rocks. Instead, the drive shafts run along the sides of the chassis, powering the wheels through a complex series of gears. But the weirdest feature is definitely the spare wheels. You will notice 2 spare tires mounted on the sides just behind the front cab. These aren't just for storage, they are actually mounted on free-rotating hubs that hang lower than the chassis. If the truck high centers on a ridge or a bump, these spare wheels act as landing gear, rolling the truck over the obstacle. This brilliant design made the YA-126 nearly unstoppable in uneven terrain. It could drag a 1-ton payload through mud that would stop a tank. It's a level of mechanical complexity that you just do not see anymore because it is incredibly expensive to build and maintain. But for a specific moment in history, DAF created the ultimate off-road spider. Today they are popular among European collectors, but finding parts for that insane drivetrain in the United States is a nightmare, making them a rare and fascinating sight on American soil. After World War II, Japan needed to rebuild its economy from the ground up. The streets were narrow, resources were scarce, and businesses needed a cheap way to move goods. Enter the K-truck revolution, led by the charming Mazda K360. Launched in 1959, this 3-wheeled truck looks less like a utility vehicle and more like a cartoon character come to life. With its rounded bathtub styling, bug-eye headlights, and friendly 2-tone paint jobs, it is undeniably adorable. But do not underestimate it. This little machine helped rebuild the Japanese economy. The K360 was powered by a tiny 3556 EC V-twin air-cooled engine mounted behind the cabin, the same spot you would find an engine in a supercar, technically making it a mid-engine vehicle. It produced a modest 11 to 16 horsepower depending on the year. Driving it was an exercise in balance. With only 1 wheel at the front, the turning radius was incredibly tight, making it perfect for the alleyways of Tokyo. However, take a corner too fast with an empty bed, and things could get tippy very quickly, requiring a steady hand on the horizontal steering wheel. The cabin was tiny, barely fitting two adults comfortably, but it was a step up from a bicycle or a motorcycle. Over 280,000 units were produced before production ended in 1969, replaced by four-wheeled trucks. Today, the K360 is a rare collector's item, celebrated not for its power but for its style and historical significance. It proved that you do not need big horsepower to make a big impact. While Americans were driving massive V8s, this little tricycle was carrying the weight of a nation's recovery on its small bed. You know the Vespa scooter, the symbol of Italian style, romance, and freedom. But did you know it has a hard-working brother? This is the Vespa Ape, pronounced Ape, which means bee in Italian, just as Vespa means wasp. Conceived by Enrico Piaggio right after the war, the idea was simple: take the front half of a scooter and weld a cargo box to the back half. It was the elegant solution for Italian merchants who could not afford a full-size truck, but needed to haul wine, cheese, and construction materials through ancient, narrow streets. The Ape is primitive but effective. The driver sits on a saddle, in early models, or a simple bench, steering with handlebars just like a motorcycle. The engine is a small displacement two-stroke, often ranging from 50 cc to roughly 200 cc. It buzzes angrily as it carries loads that look physically impossible for its size, often hauling up to 1,000 pounds or more. Over the decades, the Ape evolved, gaining a proper enclosed cab to protect the driver from the rain, but the basic three-wheel architecture has remained the same for over 70 years. It is one of the longest-running production vehicles in history because nothing else can do exactly what it does. It can squeeze through gaps that would stop a bicycle. In Italy, seeing an old man navigating a vertical cobblestone hill in a rusted Ape loaded with firewood is a common sight. Recently, they have become trendy in the US as mobile coffee bars or Prosecco vans at weddings. It is the ultimate fusion of motorcycle freedom and truck utility, proving that three wheels are sometimes better than four. We end our list with one more survivor from East Germany, the Multicar M22. While the Barkas was the delivery van, the Multicar was the heavy-duty industrial worker, shrunk down to miniature size. Produced in the 1960s and 70s, the M22 looks like someone put a full-size dump truck into a shrinking machine. It has a tiny single-person enclosed cab sitting right next to a noisy engine. It was ubiquitous in Eastern Bloc factories, airports, and construction sites, handling the dirty work that required a compact footprint. The M22 was powered by an air-cooled V-twin diesel engine producing about 15 horsepower. It was definitely not built for speed. Its top speed was barely 15 to 18 miles per hour. It was built for torque and versatility. The multi in the name referred to the various attachments available: dump beds, snowplows, street sweepers, and ladders. Despite its small size, it could carry a payload of nearly 2 tons, which is mind-blowing for a vehicle of its dimensions. The controls were cramped, and the ride was harsh, but it never quit. Amazingly, unlike many other East German manufacturers that vanished after unification, the Multicar company survived the fall of the Berlin Wall and is still in business today, making modern utility vehicles. But the M22 remains the classic icon, a noisy, smoky, shaking, but incredibly reliable little worker. It is a favorite among collectors of oddball machinery who enjoy driving a truck that tops out at the speed of a bicycle but can pull a house. It is the perfect end to our list of weird wonders. From the window-heavy Sightliner to the three-wheeled wonders, these 10 trucks prove that automotive history is absolutely insane. We have seen the wildest designs solving the toughest problems. Now it is your turn. Which mechanical oddity was your favorite? Would you pick the rock-crawling Volvo or the tiny tricycle? Comment down below right now. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next video. Thanks for watching.